I want to talk about this series today because I just finished the third book in this series this morning, and I am completely in love with the series. I found The Bear and the Nightingale on quite a few lists of things like cozy reads, winter reads, witchy reads, fantasy for winter kind of things. I didn't really know much about it, but it had been on a lot of lists. And so I added it to a hold through my Libby at the beginning of November. Not any plans to read it soon. It did come up at the end of November. Since I already had a few books ahead of it, I was able to push it back to the beginning of December. And so when I started this, I I just fell in love with it. I really like these types of fantasies that are more like old fashioned or traditional or fairy tale type, I would say. And this definitely had that feel. I don't know if I would say cozy. For me, I don't know if it's cozy because there's a lot of war and fighting and all of that, and that doesn't seem cozy to me. But the winter feel is definitely there because it's set in Russia, and most of it is during winter. One of the main characters is a winter king, so winter feel is fitting, and there's definitely witchy and magical vibes to it. I started with obviously The Bear and the Nightingale, and that is a book that has, for me, the way that a regular fantasy um, trilogy or a series starts with a lot of world building, which was written so beautifully. I was just very much teleported to this land, to this area, to this world, and just how they lived and what their traditions were and how the people the way that they believed in things and all of that. So a lot of it is a lot of backstory and world building before we meet the main character Vasya. She kind of comes in at the end of the first book, but the first book is so important to the story, and I feel like it was beautifully written. It's what made me fall in love with this story, and to immediately get the second book, and then right after that, the third book. The second book is The Girl in the Tower, and that book follows a big bulk of Vasya growing up, how she was treated, how things went with her stepmother and her father and her siblings who are much older than her, that they were leaving, and um, just the things because she was special. She could see things, she could see magical creatures, and just there was a lot of that. And then what she ends up doing to start her own journey. I don't want to give anything away. She has a very tragic life, I would say, and she goes through a lot of really bad things, and yet she's perseveres so well. And so the second book is a lot of tragedy. There's a lot of heartbreak and tragedy and hard things, yet she does find friends and character or like magical beings without giving away magical creatures that she is very close to and friends with. So she has joy, but a lot of tragedy. And then you go into the third book, which the third book was such a roller coaster for me because every emotion possible in this book. And it starts out the very beginning of the third book is well, I wrote it down. The Winter of the Witch. The Winter of the Witch. Um, the third book starts out ripping your heart right out. The third book starts out really hard, and I was like, "Oh, can I handle this?" It is quite a journey of the third book too, of her proving herself that she is a strong person. She doesn't take anything from anyone. She has purpose in her life and she knows what she wants. And then you follow the things that she does to help her family come back together, to help the people, and there's a very much a struggle with her and the witch, the the Winter King and the bear and their whole story. And then at the end, she does find a lot of joy. And it's just such a beautiful journey. And I will reread this series over and over. It's just a very classic fairy tale type of fantasy that just sticks with me. And I really needed this type of book. I didn't even know that, but I really needed this at this time. And I'm so glad that I found it. And I'm sure everyone else has already read it. But if you haven't, winter is definitely a perfect time for this series. And I highly, highly recommend it. It's going to be one of my all time favorites.